September 1976. We have your son. Anna Falbrook found it hard to focus on the words as her eyes filled with tears. We have your son. If you obey our instructions to the letter, he won't be harmed. But if you tell the police, we won't hesitate to cut his throat. Await instructions. It wasn't real. It couldn't be. Things like that happen to somebody else, to stars, to celebrities, not to families like the Falbrooks. Marcus would be on his way home now from school with his nanny, Jenny. Someone was playing a joke, a nasty joke in very bad taste. She walked round the house to the drive and waited by the front door, watching for Jenny's Minnie to appear at the gate. For the next 10 minutes she paced to and fro, swinging between hope and despair, between telling herself it was all a wicked hoax and battling a crushing, trembling fear that the note might be genuine. Then, when Jenny's Minnie sped up the drive and the nanny emerged from the car with tears streaming down her face, saying that Marcus hadn't been at school since lunchtime and no one knew where he was, Anna realized it was for real. Marcus was gone. 30 years later, Marcus staggered up the bank, ignoring the nettles and thorns that snatched at his legs. He'd reached the top of the bank now, and he stood perfectly still, shielded by the leafy oak trees. This was it. This was home. He hadn't seen it for 3 decades, but it had hardly changed, as though it had been there, waiting for him, frozen in time. Slowly and reluctantly he retraced his steps and made for the wooden jetty where he'd tied up the small motorboat he'd hired in Tradmouth. He'd have to think. He couldn't just barge in and announce his return, as though nothing had happened. He knew he'd have to face it soon, but he dreaded seeing the disbelief on their faces as he tried to explain. Returning from the dead is never easy.
Hello and welcome to Crime Writers. I'm Rachel Harvey-Jones, and in the studio with me today is the very lovely Kate Ellis. Kate is the author of an exciting series of crime novels which contain an intriguing blend of mystery and history. Her books include The Merchant's House and The Armada, to name but a few. Today, however, we'll be talking about The Shining Skull. So how did this seemingly nice, genteel lady turn to a life of crime? Well, crime writing, that is. Well, let's find out, shall we? Kate, it's lovely to have you with us.
Thank you.
It's a big introduction there, but of course there's many more novels we could have mentioned.
Oh, yes. Shining Skull's my 11th.
Wow. So let's go all the way back to the beginning and tell me how you started or how your interest developed in writing.
Well, I've always been interested in writing. I used to write bits and pieces for the school magazine and and I used to, when I was working, I used to secretly scribble bits. And I wrote, many years ago, when I was about 20, I wrote a crime novel, which I'd never seen the light of day. But I did, nothing is ever wasted, because I did use the plot in a short story.
Ah, right, okay.
But it was my mother, generally, who got me into a life of crime, I'm afraid, by introducing me to crime novels.
So how exciting is it when you get that first novel and you send it off to agents or publishers and you finally get there to say, yes, somebody wants to publish your novel?
Absolutely wonderful. Indescribable. It is.
Somebody once described it as better than having their children.
Yeah, as good as. My children might be watching this.
Yes, of course, of course. So you're on your 11th novel now. How do you think your writing has changed from when you first started to present day?
I think it's developed. I think the characters have developed. One of the joys of writing a series is that you get to know your characters like old friends.
Yeah.
And I think their lives have developed. And I think, like anything, you get better with practice.
Yes, I would hope so.
Yeah.
How long generally does it take you to write a novel?
About 8 months. But as I always had a little bit of spare capacity, I'm writing a second series as well.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, so that the first one of those is out next August.
So where do you get the ideas for your characters from? Are they totally fictitious, or are they little pieces of people you've met along the years?
I think it's inevitable nobody would recognise themselves, but I think it's inevitable. No, but I think it's inevitable that you do use bits of various characters. Like, for instance, one of my detectives, Jerry Heffernan's a rough and ready Scouser, ex-merchant navy, and as I was growing up in Liverpool, I met lots of Jerry Heffernans, I think.
So they're all now in the book. what do you think, I mean, when you're writing a book and when you're researching, do you think that you're writing it to keep yourself entertained? Do you think you're writing it to keep yourself intrigued? Or are you thinking about somebody else? Are you thinking about a specific reader?
Well, I think one of the rules of writing is that you should always write the sort of book you would like to read. So if I get bored, I think my readers are going to get bored, so I make sure I'm never bored.
Is there lots of rewriting that goes on?
Oh, yes, about 5 drafts.
Really?
Yes.
From start to finish?
Yeah.
My word, that must be soul-destroying.
Oh, no, it's not really. It's that the first draft is a bit like a block of stone for a sculptor, I always think. You know, something to chisel away at and
just
perfect.
Sort of a base.
Yeah.
Oh, great stuff. How about your research for your books? I mean, does that take a great deal of time? Or do you, because obviously if you're writing about crime and you have to put things in place, it has to be correct. I mean, how do you research your novels?
Well, there's a historical aspect. Every one of my books has a parallel historical mystery. So I've made life very difficult for myself by using a different period in each book.
Yeah.
Like Shining Skull goes back to a Regency, a mysterious Regency religious sect, and a mystery in Regency times. I do a lot of historical research, which I thoroughly enjoy. That's one of the joys.
What's your next project? What are you working on at the moment?
I've just finished the 12th Wesley book, The Blood Pit. I've just sent that off, and I'm just about to start the 13th Wesley book. And also I've got the new series. It's a slightly spooky series, a bit darker than the Wesley series, set in York. It's like thinly disguised York.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, I must confess, I've only read about 3/4 of The Shining Skull. So for our viewers who are out there thinking, oh, Kate Ellis, okay, well, what kind of style writing does she do? What's this book about? Give us sort of a 2-minute synopsis, if you like, on The Shining Skull.
Right, it's about a cold case that suddenly becomes red hot. A young boy who was kidnapped back in the 70s suddenly turns up, and DNA evidence confirms that it is him. And then at the same time, a young teenage singing star who has a mansion in Devon, has bought a mansion in Devon, she is abducted, and it appears that the same person is responsible.
Could be connected.
Yes. But at the same time,
there's lots of things happening.
Yeah.
I have to say. The first 3 chapters are sort of, you think, oh, right, okay, right, I'm going to try and keep up with what's going on here.
Yes, but at the same time there's a bogus taxi driver going around abducting blonde girls and cutting off their hair, and also archaeologist Neil Watson is excavating in the churchyard and finds a coffin with one body too many.
I tell you something, if you do, a lot of people say to me, oh, I don't know how you can read all these books, I get so bored. The Shining Skull. That's all I would say. Yeah, you will not get bored, because you literally, there's something different happening in every, you sort of have to keep, it's not, I tried to read it one night, I was really exhausted, and I thought, I'll just try and read a couple of chapters, and I couldn't, because it sort of woke me up, and then I thought, oh, what's happened there now, what's going on here? So it really does keep you exhilarated.
Oh, yes.
What keeps you enthusiastic about writing in the same genre?
I just always love crime novels. I love reading them, I love writing them.
Do you know how it's going to end when you start?
More or less, but there have been a couple of books where I've changed the murderer, I'm afraid.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I suppose it's nice to have that control over who you kill off and who you quite like.
Yes, it does. I do plan, but it does change sometimes.
I imagine so. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to sign the front cover. I've got little notes in here. You can see where I've been reading it. If you would be so kind as to sign this and pop it onto our bookshelf, which is we've been talking to Kate Ellis about The Shining Skull. So if you're looking for a great read, I know it's only October, and I know that lots of you will be cursing me for this, but you know, somebody actually told me they finished all their Christmas shopping this week. I haven't even thought about it. Thank you, Kate. But if you're looking for a great novel for Christmas, then I highly recommend this one. It really is. Now, when can we expect you to come back to us with something new and exciting to talk about?
Oh, hopefully next year.
Fantastic.
I've got 2 books out.
How exciting. Well, thank you so much for your time, Kate.
Oh, thank you, Rachel.
Well, that's another book closed here on Crime Writers. Until next time, for more great authors and more great crime, keep watching. Until then, bye for now.